Welcome to the channel. Welcome to Paper and Moose. Today is a different episode of Paper and Moose. Today is a history behind the paper or a paper history episode, and it is focusing on this man in the photographs, Mr. John Tahan from Woodhaven, New York. I came across this ephemera featuring John in a mixed box lot of paper that I purchased from an auction, and I love the images. I love the history behind them, so I thought, well, let me do a little bit more digging and a little bit more research and see what I can find. I wasn't able to find too much, unfortunately, though I am a firm believer that you can pretty much find anything on the internet. There are still some limitations by what was saved from someone's life and what was entered into, the realm of technology. But that didn't stop me. I still did some Googling, some searching, and came up with this little presentation about John's life. So sit back and relax, and hopefully you'll learn a little bit more about the history behind the paper and about John Tahan's life as we go through the next slides. So John Vincent Tahan Sr. was born in 1905, September 19th in 1905 in New York. His father was Edward, who was 43 at the time, and his mother Annie was 26. So as you can see, there was a distinct age gap between his parents. John married Lucille Catherine Wolkovich on October 8th, 1933 in Queens, New York, and throughout 14 years, they had 6 children. He passed away January 30th, 1987 in Flemington, New Jersey at the age of 81. So he was a New Yorker all of his life and then moved over to the great state of New Jersey. At the bottom, you can see a little family tree. This was taken from Ancestry.com. I think I've mentioned this before in a previous episode that Ancestry.com is a great resource. If you don't have a subscription and you plan on doing a lot of either family history or just history on any ephemera that you may find that involves people, I really suggest getting a subscription to Ancestry.com. It is a great resource. So why did I choose to do a little episode about John? It's mainly because of his chauffeur license. I've never seen them before, and they actually are collectible, more so the badges that are available. There is a great article online called The Evolution of the New York Driver's License by Nick Corasanti and Josh Williams of the New York Times, and they include photographs that were from the collection of Ross Day of just the different licenses that were available during this time. Of John's, I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 5 of John's licenses. The history of the New York driver's license in of itself is, interesting and always changing. In 1903, New York State was the first to issue any form of motor vehicle operator's registration, only for chauffeurs, using badges, and then badges were actually issued until the 1920s, and those have a big following behind them of collectors. In 1910, paper licenses were issued. You can see that on the left-hand side. It is marked as 1910. The personal data and the photo were on the back, so they captured common things like age, their height, weight, color of their hair, the color of their eyes, and if they wore glasses or not. This will change throughout the years, as our licenses today still do. In 1911, the company was then included on the license, and then in 1915, personal data was moved to the front and a photo was put on the back. So in 1918, the first regular driver's licenses were offered, and then by 1924, licenses were required for all drivers. So you can just see how it kind of evolved, the shape evolved, the format evolved, and how it changed through the years. The licenses that I have from John are all from the 1930s. They span from 1932 or 1930 to 1936. But again, if you want a better look at the different types of licenses or just more of the history of the New York license, then definitely take a look, just Google the title of this article and you'll be taken right to it. So these were two of John's. The one on the left is from 1930, and then the one on the right, the one on the left, sorry, is from 1932, and the one on the right is from 1930. So you have, the certification. He was actually allowed, he was licensed to operate gas motor vehicles. What is interesting to note in his licenses is that the color of his eyes change. They go from blue to gray, and then I think back to blue. He remained the same weight, 165 pounds, throughout all the years. This is his license from 1933. I love the image of him on the right. The holder of this license can operate only the type of motor vehicle named on the reverse side hereof. This license must be carried while operating a motor vehicle. So you have this little paper license that you have to carry around in your wallet, in your car, or else you can't operate it. Every operator of a motor vehicle involved in an accident resulting in a personal injury or death must report it to the Commissioner of Motor Vehicles. Secure a blank from police, town, city, or village clerk or any office of a Bureau of Motor Vehicles. And a failure to report an accident within 24 hours is a misdemeanor. So John remained at this street address, 9218 91st Avenue in Woodhaven, New York, throughout his career as a driver. And again, it shows his height, the color of eyes, the color of his hair, which seemed to be blonde, and then again, the gas. He was licensed to operate the gas motor vehicles. This is his 1936 license, the front and the back. Same kind of important information on there, same setup on the back as well. Still the same weight, and still the same eye color of blue and the same address. While I was looking to try and find more of the history of, licensed drivers in New York, I came across these interesting ads in the Long Island Daily Press from November 12, 1943. So you have the one on the left that they're looking for drivers, essential industry experience unnecessary, good hourly rates, and paid vacation. Persons in war work because it is 1943 or essential activity not considered without statement of availability. So, they're not going to want to hire you when in a month or a couple days, couple weeks, you might have to be, shipped off to Europe. And this is with the North Shore Bus Company in Flushing. Apply room 200 daily between 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. The middle ad I thought was really neat. Airplane cleaners needed by leading airline for work at LaGuardia Field to maintain its flagships in spick and span condition for many important wartime travelers. American Airlines needs women immediately for general cleaning services. Applicants must be between 21 and 40 years of age. Interview at address below. Their interviews are from 9 to 5, and then Thursdays to 9 p.m., and Saturdays to 12:30 p.m. Bring birth certificate if possible. And that was with the American Airlines Inc. company in New York City. On the right is another ad for clerical help. They had paying positions for clerks, messenger girl, and a typist. Steady work, pleasant surroundings, easy transportation, and most importantly, a low-priced cafeteria on premises. And then you can apply at the office manager. Do not phone at the Loft Candy Corporation in Long Island City. I wonder what it would work there. I'll have to look that place up. I just like how they definitely advertised that there was a low-priced cafeteria on premises. I think that's probably an important thing to know. But these were some of the ads in the Help Wanted section of this newspaper because I was trying to find different ads for drivers. And there were drivers needed for all different types of work, whether it was for just a business, whether it was for a family, or just an individual person. You know, drivers were definitely needed during that time. Trying to find more about John was a little bit more daunting. Usually I'm pretty good at finding information online, whether it was in an old book, a newspaper article, but for him it was a little bit harder. So I mainly sourced what I could off of Ancestry.com. So in the 1930 census, he is highlighted in the yellow at the top. He was 24 and he worked as an engineer on boats. The Germany is from where his parents were born. So his parents were both born in Germany. And it's funny that their parents were from the Irish Free State. By 1940, 10 years later, John is married and he has 2 stepchildren and 1 son who was John Vincent Jr. Matilda and Joseph came from his wife Lucille. It is noted that John only finished up to 8th grade, and at this time in 1940, he was an owner-manager of a farm with being classified as working on his own account, which means that, you know, if he was employed by a farm, it would have said employed. If he was doing, I guess maybe contract work for a farm, it would have stated, but it just said he was working on his own account. What is also interesting to note is that there was a section when asked if they had income through other sources, and John marked yes. So it just made me wonder if he was still working as a driver during this time or if that stopped in the 1930s, because even when he was working as a boat engineer, he was still doing driving on the side. So I just wondered what his life was like, you know, in the 40s during the wartime period, working on a farm, if he was still a driver. For his parents, I was able to find their obituaries. You know, online newspaper resources, if you can find them for free, are a great resource. A lot of them, often you have to pay a subscription fee. So on the left, you have the notice from when his father passed away. In 1933, his father was actually 71, which was a great age at that time. He is survived by his widow, Annie, father of Irene, John, and Catherine, and also brother Joseph. And then on the right, you have the obituary from John's mother, who passed away when she was only 56. She died at the New York Infirmary Hospital, Manhattan. And she was born in Manhattan and then resided there until she moved to Woodhaven. And then her husband, Edward, died 2 years ago. 3 children, Irene, Catherine, and John Tahan, survive. And then if you look at their address, both listed in their obituary, 9218. On the left, it actually says 91st Avenue, which is what is on John's licenses. And then on the right, it says 92nd Street. So I'm guessing that was probably a typo. In the obituary section of these newspapers, I found this, which, again, I thought was interesting. This is for the bus, an ad for the Bus Funeral Home, Jamaica Avenue in Glendale, Long Island. And you can get the $150 funeral, which is a deal considering what funerals cost today. And it was just interesting to read what was included. So let's read it. It's a half couch casket in polished hardwood, black or any color plush, trimmed with silver extension handles, engraved nameplate, and lined with silk with pillow to match. Strong outside burial box with mattress. Removing remains from any hospital in Greater New York, embalming and care of remains. A gentleman's suit or lady's dress. Use of candles and candelabra when requested. Use of draperies, palms, and 24 camp chairs. Flowers on door. Procure burial permits. Automobile hearse. 1 limousine to any cemetery in Greater New York. Delivering box to cemetery. Total $150. So you not only get a casket, you get everything. You are embalmed, you're taken care of, you get your clothes, you get candles, draperies, chairs, flowers on the door, a nice casket, silk lined, and a pillow to match for $150. Or you can bump that up and get the complete $225 funeral that has a solid oak, massive square, and half couch casket. Now, you are not going to be able to get anything like that today. I mean, maybe a flower arrangement might cost $150. Unbelievable. And this was during the 1930s that this ad was run in the newspaper. But when I saw this, I thought, wow, that is a deal and a half. It's crazy to think just prices. I wonder what the equivalent of the $150 was then to our money now. That would be interesting to find out. One item that I did find that I thought kind of ties into this whole thing was the obituary for John's son, not one of his stepchildren, but his actual son. And he died at age 79 from Clarksville, November 12th, 2014. So there was no services, and then he was going to be cremated and then buried at a later date at the Kentucky Veterans Cemetery West. So he was born February 17th, 1935 in Queens County, New York, to the late John Vincent and Lucille. He was preceded in death by pretty much everyone in his life, including his wife, his brothers, his sisters, which is sad. He was retired from the U.S. Army and served 3 tours in Vietnam, where he received 2 Bronze Star medals. And this was the part I thought was really neat, and I thought kind of tied this whole thing together and was interesting, was he was the owner of Gate 1 Flea Market until its closure. I tried to look up Gate 1 Flea Market, and the avenues that I took, I couldn't find anything, because I thought it'd be neat to have an old newspaper article, an old picture. Maybe they would have had a picture of him, but I wasn't able to. But I thought that was neat, that his son owned a flea market, and that ties into kind of everything here. So that's all I could find for John. You know, sometimes, like I said, even with all the technology we have, there are still, you know, dead ends, U-turns. There's always more room to do research, though, because I always believe that somehow, some way, you still can find out more information. But I still enjoyed learning about, you know, the driver's license history in New York, about John's family, finding the obituaries for his parents, seeing those great ads that were in the newspapers as well, and then discovering that his son actually owned and operated a flea market, which I thought was pretty neat. So I hope that you all enjoyed this. It was a little short episode for the paper, you know, not super detailed about John's life, but still I think worth mentioning. And you wonder what kind of stories he heard when he was driving, you know, who he worked for, what he did, and just his experience during the 1930s as a driver in New York. Thank you all again for watching. Stay tuned for other adventures. I have to think of my next project for the history behind the paper. I have some other videos coming up, so be sure to stay tuned for those. So thank you all again for watching. Like and subscribe if you haven't, and I hope that you all have a great day or a great evening, and see you all later.